Welcome to Under the Wing with Andrew, where stories soar and conversations fly free. I'm your host, Andrew Wingard, inviting you to pull up a chair, kick back, and join me around the campfire for some warm exchanges. Each episode, we dive deep into life's journey with incredible guests from all walks of life, blending wisdom, lessons, and a little bit of laughter along the way. Whether you're here for inspiration, insight, or just a good old chat, you're in the right place. Gather around. Let's begin. This episode of Under the Wing with Andrew is proudly sponsored by M3 Pro Therapy, your go-to destination for peak performance and recovery. Located at 22077 Outer Drive, Dearborn, Michigan. Owned and operated by Rachel, a professional massage therapist specializing in sports therapy, M3 Pro Therapy offers sports massage tailored to enhance athletic performance, speed recovery, and prevent injuries for athletes and active individuals. Mobility-assisted stretching, one-on-one mobility sessions customized to your needs, designed to improve functional mobility, strengthen joints, and support injury prevention and rehabilitation. Red light therapy, a rejuvenating treatment promoting skin health, muscle recovery, pain relief, and overall well-being. Connect with Rachel and discover how M3 Pro Therapy can elevate your health and performance. You can connect with her on Instagram at M3Pro_therapy. Take your next step toward recovery and peak performance with M3 Pro Therapy, because your body deserves the best. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Under the Wing. I have a special guest today. If you're familiar with the term day one, I have one of my day ones, man, Alex Ramirez, who was also a Juco student athlete at Delta College. And I'm happy to have my friend on. What's up, Alex?
Oh, what's up? Thanks for having me on. I'm just so excited to have a conversation about the memories that we've had.
Facts, man. And so when I say day one, here's the explanation. So Alex and I, was it elementary school is when
Thomas
technically we
White.
started? Thomas
Yeah.
White, T. White. Shout out to the T. White legends, man. So Thomas White, we get to middle school and then you leave in high school? Or did
Yeah.
you leave middle school?
Nope. I left in high school, decided to go out to Swan Valley to play softball. So,
Nice, right. So the trick leaves for high school. Some years later, a few years later, we end up relinking back up at college. And so it was pretty cool how that kind of full circle came in. And so let's jump right into this conversation. And before we get into the JUCO world, I want to touch base a little bit on your sports background, because what people don't know is we actually have some studs in terms of women's sports. And so I always think about, what if all of you all would have stayed and then we would have all been in high school together. And so like all of the athletic girls left and went their separate ways and did their own respectable things. And so you were a multi-sport athlete. And I guess it's safe to say most multi-sport athletes are really good, but you were like really good at multiple sports. Like where did playing multiple sports come from? Is it something that just happened? Was it family? How did you get involved in all the sports?
so it was me just wanting to follow around my older brother Marcus, about a 3-year age difference, and do everything that he did. With my cousins, a really big family, so that entailed a lot of driveway basketball and I said back then, like it was that long ago, but we were playing outside. There was no internet or anything like that. You had to
Uh-huh.
entertain yourself by
Yep.
being outside, playing with friends and family. So basketball was the sport that I loved to play. Played it with all my family, and I really wish I was taller, all these things. And I was like, oh, I would have been so good. But naturally, I was just a lot better at softball. And
Mm,
again, just started playing when I was really young. And my dad would always have me on two teams. He would have me on my team in that 3-year age different gap. But then he would also put me on my brother's team wherever he played. So then I was exposed to, much older talent, and kind of had to step up my game kind of young because I'm competitive. So I
yep.
was probably talking trash back then to those people older than me. But It really came from staying busy and enjoying being with people, and that's
Yeah.
kind of how it started.
Nice. So you would say basketball. Would you say basketball was your favorite sport?
Oh, by far, I love basketball. I wish I was good at basketball. I think to myself, I'm like, if I just had a little bit of the talent that I had in softball, like in
Mm,
basketball, like how far I could have went because that was what my passion was. I worked for it and all these things. Um, but I was all right. I feel like I could have been better, mostly with my left hand. Let's just say that.
yeah.
But and for softball, like I was just naturally good at it because I was naturally good at baseball growing up. And so I didn't put as much effort into softball, but I was a 10 times better softball player
Mm.
just naturally.
Gotcha. So that's I'm gonna pivot a little bit because now that I'm thinking about it, I do want to talk about this question, and especially because transition, like you see college athletes transitioning from school to school, and so your transition was to Swan Valley. What was that like coming from Bridgeport and going? Now Swan Valley is not that far, right? It's still in Saginaw for the most part, but what was that transition like?
So I lived in Bridgeport, and so that was a 40-minute drive that my family was committing to. And at the
Wow.
time, I was actually enrolled and accepted at Hemlock, Heritage, Swan Valley. My parents like put me in all these like had me apply to all these schools, and really it came down to what was the best fit athletically for me.
Mm,
So, my dad chose to go with Swan Valley. So I really had no say in the matter. I just kind of ended up there. I played
yeah.
travel ball, and a lot of my teammates went to a couple different schools. It was interesting just from a culture standpoint, going from Bridgeport and at the time Swan Valley. I was definitely the minority there. I showed up in
Mm.
like decked out Tommy Hilfiger, and I looked around. Everyone's wearing Abercrombie and Hollister, and I'm like, oh, I'm not in Bridgeport anymore. Okay. So just kind of adjusting in that way. But like in when it comes to sports, um, it was funny because I remember telling my coach, our teammate, I said, oh, yeah, I'm going to be on the varsity softball team. We're both going to be on it, blah, blah, blah. And I remember somebody looked at me and was like, we have one of the best softball programs around. What makes you think as a freshman you'll be on it? And I was
Wow.
like, oh, okay. Well, turns out that person ended up being on JV, didn't even make the varsity team. So I was
Oh
like,
my
okay,
goodness.
that came back around. But definitely was a good move for me just because of the intensity of the coach. And I think that's why my dad had put me there.
Mm,
But just the way that they viewed athletics compared to some other schools at the time is what really made me go there.
yeah. What advice would you have for a young person who is in a similar situation to transitioning to a new environment, a new destination? You think about your time now. Again, I know that was high school and it's very different when it comes to college. But if you think about some of the things that you went through or seeing transitioning to that high school, what advice would you share with a young person to,
Uh,
hopefully help them during their transition?
It would be to embrace it. I think that we get in our head a lot and we wonder, what does that person think of me, or how am I going to show up there? Show
Mm,
up and still be you, be authentically you.
yeah.
Don't conform to those around you because, I did that for a little bit and I didn't play my best game until I was truly being myself. Just like now, um, even at work, until I was truly myself at work and let my personality be what it is, I was pretty stuck. So
Wow.
embrace a change, embrace a challenge, and be you.
Yeah. No, that's powerful. Just show up as your
Hmm.
authentic self. I literally just sent an email right before I left work that had those words. Show up, be your authentic self. And I was talking to
Hmm.
some students, and that, I mean, I'm happy that you said that. That's awesome. All right. So before we jump into the Juco, I have one more question. There's a lot of debate, and you've heard it, about the pros or cons of, especially now, specializing in one sport or being a multi-sport athlete like yourself. There's a lot of people going back and forth. Pros of it, cons of it. They should do this. They should do that. Like, what are your thoughts? And what's your take on the impact?
10 times out of 10, I would dual sport every single time. And I say
Okay.
that because you don't want to get burnt out in one sport. And quite honestly, you have to focus on such different skills and mindsets in every sport that you play. And
Mm,
really, what that does is just sharpen you for the one that you're going to excel at. Like, yeah, play the multiple sports, but be honest with yourself. Which sport is going to take you to the next level?
yeah.
And use the skills that you learned in the others to really set you apart from others in the sport that you're going to excel at. You think about like Kobe Bryant, right? Like you see him with
Hmm.
a soccer ball, and you're like, "What's Kobe Bryant doing with a soccer ball?" And you know, and he will say that his first love, like his love, was a soccer ball. He wanted to be, you know, a soccer player, but
Yeah.
his stature, and he just was a lot better at basketball, and that's what he ended up embracing. But you know, the hand-eye coordination and everything that comes with the sport transfers over to the other sport, no matter what, and
Yeah.
the leadership, all that kind of stuff. So I'm a fan of, you know, multiple sports. Now I don't do 10 at a time, but you know.
Yeah. That's that. If I had one regret, is not having the mentality early on to be willing to play in another sport. Now, again, a lot of that had to do with being a Bridgeport and I mean, just being honest, like the athletics outside of basketball was not very respectable, and so it's. But I still wish I would have done it. Just for what you said in terms of building skills in other sports and hopefully helping me grow as not just an athlete but just an individual as a whole.
Right. And plus the relationships and the connections you make just because your other team might not even have the single player from your other team, right? So you're just
Yeah,
making connections as you go along too. Let me ask you, if you were to go back and play a sport, you know, regardless of, you know, if they were good or not, what sport would you do?
man, that's tough. That's tough. It, of course, it would have to be either football or track,
Mhm.
but
Ooh, track. I could definitely see you in
yeah,
track for sure. I'm
and
surprised
here's
you didn't do track, quite
and
honestly.
and I'm the same way, and it's quite it's crazy because I worked in higher ed my whole career, and when people see me outside of work, they might see me in like some workout clothes or, and everyone's, oh, what sport did you play? And majority of the time, I promise you, I kid you not, it's either football or track. They assume I played. Now, a lot of that had to do to my growth at Delta and Shelly and just being super intense with her. So it's like form my body and everything. But it's the people connect track and football to me. And so it's like, man, like I wish, and if I had to choose one, I probably would say track and field.
Now, did anybody ever like tap you on the shoulder, like, hey, you should think about this? Or, you know, because sometimes it just takes somebody doing that too. Like, hey, have you ever thought about playing this? Right. That's what my dad did for travel league. He was like, what if we did travel basketball? And I was like,
Mm.
no, thanks. But I'm so glad I did it.
Right. And honestly, no. No one ever approaches except for football. Like I mean, everyone they would you play basketball, they hey, let's come play football or
Hmm.
whatever. And I wasn't ready mentally for football.
Hmm.
And it's not
Well,
something that I could have done.
and see, and this is the other side of things, right? For people that are listening, like, don't be afraid to be that person to tap somebody on the shoulder. Have you thought about this, right? Like,
Yep.
whether it's athletics or in your job, sometimes people don't even know what the opportunities are until you present them to them. So,
Exactly. No, you're right. Because we're young. We don't
mhm.
even know what to venture into. I'll bring up a solid point because I love the blues. I remember my granddad gave me this harmonica. But I threw it away. Like I'm not playing harmonica. Like I'm in Saginaw, Michigan. Like I'm not. He tried it, but it wasn't something that. Hey, have you thought about actually trying to learn this? And so it wasn't something. No one asked me about it. He just gave it to me, right, with no instruction. But you're absolutely right. Like as an adult, maybe challenge these young people to
Mhm.
maybe try something different. And
Mhm.
I kind of wish someone would have done that as someone had did for you, right? Because now I'm adding some different skill sets. That's all.
For sure, for sure. Somebody tapped me on the shoulder to get me to play the tenor saxophone too. I was in jazz band and all this kind of
And I
stuff.
forgot you were in jazz. I
Yeah,
forgot
I
you
was
were
in
in band.
band. My parents would be like, I don't know if I just played bad or they didn't like the saxophone. They made me go practice on the porch. And I was like, this is for the birds out there in the wintertime practicing. I think that's why I gave it up. But I look back, I was like, man, could I have been in drama? Like I love
Right.
musicals and stuff. I was like, I bet maybe I could have been an actress. I don't know.
Exactly. Exactly. All the things that you think about it now, it's just like, man, it's too late. But man, what could I have been? What could I have done?
Mhm.
You know? That's awesome. No, thank you for bringing that up. That's
Yeah.
solid. All right, let's jump into this JUCO journey. And so, if you're listening to this, you know I'm on kind of a JUCO kick right now to talk about the JUCO experience. Athletics is changing at a rapid rate. The JUCO experience could be changing in the next 3 to 5 years. And so I wanted to just chop it up with some of my brothers and sisters to talk about their experience. Good, bad, indifferent, doesn't really matter. But I just wanted to have a authentic conversation about the experience in the JUCO world because I think sometimes people think about it in whatever way they might think, but I wanted to have an authentic conversation. And so, how did you get to Delta? What was the journey like?
So I just wanted to start off by saying I don't even know when I someone told me junior college was a thing, quite honestly. But it was in high school. I was actually supposed to go to Fair State, but I didn't have the grades. Like I
Mm,
never showed my parents a report card. I would like struggle between the 2.2, like 2.5, right? You got a fun fact, have a 2.5 in order to go play softball at Fair. So
hmm.
I was sitting under that. So I got a full ride to Oakland Community College. So that's where I ended up going. And at the time, I don't know if he thought I was some kind of great student. But I got signed up for 18 credits, dude. 18 credits.
What?
Yeah. And then I lived in Waterford, which has an OCC campus like right across the street from where I was living with my godparents. And this dude had me driving to Auburn Hills for every single class. And
Oh my
so that, I
goodness.
mean, that's a drive. So I will say I did not do well there. And I ended up dropping out. And so then I was kind of sitting at home one day and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was kind of feeling like a failure, quite honestly. And it was Ashley Stelter, actually, who I had played travel basketball with, many years ago, was like, hey, dude, like, I play basketball at Delta. It's really fun. Like, you should come in and try it out. And I was like, no, no, no. Like, I don't know. I'm just done with, community college. I feel like, it's lesser than. And but at the same time, I'm just sitting at home on my couch. I mean, that's lesser than that, right?
Right.
Um, so I was like, okay. So I went out to an open gym and man, instantly, like everything came back to me, why I love sports, why I love camaraderie. And then after that, and Coach Kelly, her intensity, I was like, okay, I was like, I'm gonna go for this. So I asked, I joined the team and I actually did a whole lot better at Delta. Like I think I graduated with like a 3.7 and all these things. Like it just was a great atmosphere to be in. I'm happy that I went there, but I definitely took a path of feeling pretty low to get there. But again,
Mm,
it took somebody like, hey, why don't you come try this out? And I'm like, sure, why not?
wow. That's a theme right now. It's a theme with you of
Yeah.
someone reaching out and hey, you should come do this.
Hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about that gap that you're in because I've seen that with student athletes specifically and students in general. They get to a point where they're in the pit, they're feeling down. Like talk to me about that experience as you leave OCC. I don't even know. I forgot you even went to Oakland, to be honest with you. But like, how did you, outside of Stelter, shout out to Stelter for reaching out to you, what else helped you kind of get out of that slump?
um, Quite honestly, it took like a lot of I want to say continued follow up from my friends and family, right? I was like staying up super late, playing Call of Duty, all
Mm,
sleeping during the day, all kinds of things. Definitely was out of my element, and it was just kind of my loved ones. And finally, something clicked to me. My dad was like, "Is this what you want to do? Is this what you want to do for the next 2, 3 years?" And I was
mm,
like, no, no, I don't want to do this. So, and then it was kind of, reconnecting with myself. What do I want to be? What do I want to do? And kind of coming up with a development plan.
mm,
Because when you're that young, you don't think, okay, in 2 to 3 years, I want to do this. Like some do, and kudos to those people for sure.
right.
But for me, it finally took something to just click in me to say, I can do more than this. I'm capable of more than this. And
Yeah.
Delta College was my first step towards a better me, and it definitely got me there. So,
Yeah. That's awesome, man. And so I am in the same boat as you, and especially in terms of grades. you left Delta to 3.7. I'm sure I think mine might have been close to that, if not closer, it's 3.8 or something like that. What was it at Delta that really helped you, I guess, change academically, change your mindset? What was it that got you to that point? If you can go back to there and think about it.
Yeah, I think it was structure, 100% structure of,
Mm,
okay, from this time you are here, from this time you are here. And it really, from the moment you wake up at, 6, 7 a.m. to hit that first class till 6 p.m. after practice, like your day is completely mapped out for you.
yeah,
So you, at that point, it's just on you to show up and, and do your part. And that's what it was about for me, as to where previously I didn't have that kind of structure. So like if I want to go do something, I'm not going to go do something, right? Like I had terrible attendance in school, in high school. I tried to run for class president. They wouldn't let me because they said I missed too many days of school. And then someone was like, "Hey, like class president plans everything after we graduate, right?" And I was like, "Oh, no, 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 no. Don't sign me up for that." Um, but I think that was kind of the biggest thing, was having structure. I really enjoy having that, but being able to manage change and the ambiguity of things too is huge. But during that time in my life, I just really needed things kind of in order for myself.
yeah.
How about
You
you?
talk. I would say I tell people, man, the TLC, and very similar to your structure, right? We had to do study hall hours, but
Hmm.
because we were there for so long, it was like you got class at 8 o'clock. We always practiced after y'all, so it was. I mean, there were days I was there from 8 until 8. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so I had to go to the TLC. But for me, it was mentally like, bro, this your last stop. It's like last chance you. Like either you figure this out, or God knows what's gonna happen. Like I don't know what you gotta do, but you gotta try to figure this out, bro. And so thankfully the TLC was there and we had to do the hours. And so like I have to be here. So why not spend the time and figure out how to do this school stuff? You know
Yeah,
what I
that was a
mean?
good time there. Yeah, for sure. I still think about, they used to clean with this like clean stuff that smells like wintergreen and stuff. It'd be so strong. And so like now anytime I smell that, I just think of like TLC, think of Randy, shout out Randy, you
Yep.
know? So
That's
that's funny.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
hated it at the time though, right? I was like, oh, TLC. But no, it was
But like you said, the structure. I needed
yeah.
structure. I needed someone to be like, all right, here's how you do this. And then once I got in there and once I really saw the benefit and my confidence started to grow, it's like, oh, I can actually take tests. I can actually study for this because I'm not studying for tests at Bridgeport. I'm not. I was there at class every day, but I wasn't turning in assignments. I wasn't like, I'm just like, man, I'm just here floating. Yeah, I have no idea what's happening right now. And so like that structure, like you said, and we had structure at Delta. And I
Mhm.
can't speak for everybody else, but I've heard about JUCO stories, and some of these places don't have structure.
Yeah, I think we had structure at a couple different levels, right? When it became like our coaches, I mean, but also like the teachers there truly care about you, right? And want
Mm,
to see you succeed, and got a lot of one-on-one time, or personalized, rather than, you don't get any of that. You go to, let's say, a major, university, or let's say a JUCO that really is just there to collect money because we know they're out there, right?
right.
But Delta definitely took the time to invest in, whoever wanted to be invested in. I think that's pretty cool.
Facts. So I actually talked with Rico the other night, and we talked about the we talked about the Delta difference, man. So that was the thing, man. And so I'm so appreciative of them taking their time with somebody like me because I was slow at that time. So you talked about change. So what was like that transition? And we're talking athletically now. What was that transition like from high school to Delta College? I know I tell people this all the time. If I could have played for Coach Kelly, I probably would. I would have straight up drawn Amanda and like locked and loaded with her. And I love Coach Smith, but
Hmm.
like it was something about watching Coach Kelly coach was crazy. But talk to me about that transition, playing for Coach and competing with your squad because y'all weren't square up. Y'all were better than us. I'll be
Hmm.
honest with you. Y'all had a
Hmm.
squad.
We're scrappy. We're definitely scrappy. I mean, when you got what 5'4" me playing in the post, trying to out rebound everybody. But one thing I noticed when I was at OCC and I got on the softball field, I was so used to being the best athlete, right? On
Mm,
the court, on the field. Not the best basketball player, but all around best athlete. And that was not the same in college. I mean, you got players in college, so it was like, man, this person's so fast, or this person's that, and I was no longer the best athlete on the floor, and I think that was a major adjustment for me, quite honestly. Not that I
Mhm.
lost my confidence in it, but maybe a little bit of my bravado, my
Yeah.
cockiness. But for me, in high school, I played for Coach Tom Kennelly. So I don't know if you know of him, but he's like a
Mm-mm.
legend in, that Swan Valley area. He's mean, man. He is mean. Get up in your face. He's so intense. I remember one time I tried to mouth off to an ump. He grabbed me by my collar and was like, "Go sit down. You got thrown out." I was like, "Oh dang, they can't do that no more."
Yeah, you get
Um,
fired doing that now.
yeah, you get fired now. But Coach Kelly, her intensity reminded me of the exact same thing, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, this is the kind of coach that like I thrive under, because again, I had a coach at OCC who was just like, oh yeah, go do it. Oh yeah, go do that. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, this sucks, right? Like, where's the passion? Where's the fire? And Coach Kelly, you know what? Coach Kelly's maybe 5'1", 5'2", and just but big personality, big voice, and just really caring. Like, she'll go hard at you, but she's going hard at you because she cares. And
Yeah.
there's a difference in that kind of coaching, and I did really well under that. So shout out to
Man.
Coach Kelly. She was awesome.
Shout out to Coach, man. So when you look at your experience as a whole, your holistic experience, like how did your teammates influence your experience there at Delta?
Oh my God, my teammates were great. Great in terms of, iron sharpens iron as
Mm-hmm.
far as being on the court with them, but also how supportive they were off the court, right? If you tell them you're struggling in certain class or anything like that, they would jump in and, okay, what are you struggling with? Okay, this and this. It's like having your own people just like motivate you to do things. Plus, you're seeing them succeed, them working hard. It's gonna make
Mm-hmm.
you work hard. So to have teammates that truly cared. And we all like lived together. I don't
Yeah.
know if you remember. I,
I
I
remember that.
lived, it was me, like three, four other people in a 3 bedroom. And so just being around those people all the time, and everyone's highly motivated, and it was a great time.
That was
So
that was it was Bay Valley, right?
it was Bay Valley. I was living with Kai, Lexi, Rhonda, Stelter. It and I loved it. I thought I would hate having, four other roommates. Yeah, so there was two, four, there was five of us in there.
Wow.
But no, like everybody was motivated to do more, and no one was selfish on that team, and that
Yeah.
was great.
I heard something and I was talking with my vice president of student affairs and he said something that I didn't think about it until he said it. But the students now they talk about having their own bathrooms, their own rooms. And he was like, well, a part of why we turn that down is so that way, well, I shouldn't say turn it down, but the idea of living with others at that point of your life is because you're going to have to work with people, you're going to have to live with people when you leave college. And so, like to your point, you might think that you're going to hate it, and sometimes you probably do, but then you think about those moments like, man, I enjoyed like getting to know them and battling with them and going through life with them. And it's just like you can't duplicate that experience.
You can't. You learn to juggle personalities, and really lean into what makes this person tick, right? Like,
Yeah,
me saying this to somebody might motivate them, but it's not going to motivate this person to do it, right? So trying to
right,
find what makes people motivated to do things like that just helped me just in my career, even now, being
right,
able to change based off of who you're talking to, and like having those people in your face all day every day because you live with them. Definitely, like, I feel like escalated that for me.
right. Because I'm thinking about that crew, just the names that you shared. You all are so very different.
So different, so different. Yeah, I don't know how I ended up with that group of girls, and literally, like, it's you go into a room, it's like, wait, I can tell whose room this is. I can tell whose room this is over here. But like, we all got along so well. I might have got on Stelter's nerve because I was messy sometimes. I'll say that. Sorry, Stelter. But for the most part, man, it was a good time. Not to mention everybody wanted to, party at our place. But
Exactly. That's it, man. I remember the parties over in Bay Valley, man. So shout out to y'all for hosting.
yeah,
Um,
that fence is no longer there, by the way. I was like, man, That fence
No
hit some
way.
good times back there. Yeah, because my friend
Oh,
lives right next to it in a house, and I'm like, I drive past that all the time, and I'm like, memories.
oh my goodness. Shout out to Bay Valley, man.
Oh yeah,
So there's always misconceptions, and then there's always, pros and cons to the JUCO world. And at the end of the day, it's super gritty, right? It's not like you said, yeah, we don't have all the bells and whistles. We don't have, you know, dining tables to eat at during lunch for athletes and all that kind of jazz. So we kind of have to figure our own way out for the most part. But can you share a time when you shared the triumph, right? You left Delta with super high GPA, you overcame, but can you share a time when things didn't go as planned while you were at Delta?
yeah. Actually, so when I was at Delta, in my second year, my father passed away in a car accident, and so I had to stop everything I was doing mid-semester. And I think the season was over, but mid-semester I had to fly out to Dallas, spend some time there. But I mean, I was taking like a couple different classes that I absolutely needed to pass, right?
Mm,
And I wasn't going to be able to. Most of the teachers were understanding, absolutely. But again, the travel, I didn't know how long I was going to be away. That was definitely a down moment for me. But what came out of that was, again, my teammates were like, hey, we got your homework for you. Hey, this is what the notes from the class that we had. Hey, again, they were not going to let me fail.
yeah,
And, I think the season was over. So it's not like we were going to have another year together or anything like that. Like, really everyone could have just walked away at that time
right.
and no one would have blamed them, but literally everybody were just jumping in trying to help me wherever they could. And a sense of family, right? And that's an experience you wouldn't get at a place with thousands of people at a time or things like that. So that was definitely a moment that'll live with me forever, is that you can have one of the lowest moments, but there's also a bright light in there too, something that came out of it that was good. So
Yeah. No, that's powerful, man. And to understand the teammates that yes, the JUCO experience is very temporary, but like the lifelong relationships and friendships that were built during that time have a very similar feel to a 4 year institution when you're there for 4 years. It's like we probably didn't all spend 4 years together, but through those 2 years, it felt like forever.
for sure. And being with each other all the time, right? It's like you
Yeah.
you squish so much experience in 2 years.
Right.
And that's huge. So I'm definitely glad that I made that decision. My life would look completely different had I not, went to Delta. So shout out to Delta. Love it. And I always, anybody who talks to me, I'm like, they're on the fence about going somewhere. I'm like, Delta, community college.
Yeah.
Like, don't knock it, save some money, get them credits. They're the exact same credits you would get at a 4 year for
Mm,
like a quarter of the price, probably less than that,
right.
and figure out who you are.
Yeah. So let's stay there for a second. So you would encourage students to attend Delta, and I would too, 100%. What advice would you give them as they're getting ready to make that journey to the community college world?
I would say probably embrace as many experiences as you can and don't be afraid to pivot, right? Like, don't be
Mm,
afraid to change your mind. Okay, yep, I thought I wanted to be this, but actually, I want to go and be this. Like, I'm still trying to figure out, what I want to be when I grow up. So, I definitely know I didn't have that at 18. So, don't be afraid to try different things. And at the time, computer science wasn't like a big thing back then, but like, imagine getting into programming and coding back then, what it is now. Like, don't
right.
be afraid to get ahead of the curve and not follow the rest of the crowd. So there's many paths, many ways to get to the path of success. You don't have to follow everybody else.
Facts. Yeah, Rico. So Rico and I had the same conversation in the show, and I I just showed him so much love because I don't know, like putting myself in positions where I could be uncomfortable. Like Rico was the spearhead of all of our friends. And because he had came from the Rapids, he just was so open to doing stuff. Like we from Saginaw, so I was still in some stuff like, yeah, bro, I'm not going over there. Like I'm not. I was still hesitant to do stuff. But having Rico around to push me to do things that were uncomfortable. Like
hmm
I can never replace that experience and what he gave us because he was so, I'm gonna do this. Like, you got to come. And it was like, all right, man. But I was hesitant. So that's super great advice.
Rico's such a vibrant person. Like I was like, you can't help but be drawn to him and like the stories he would tell. But that's a great point. Get comfortable being uncomfortable
Yeah,
because how else are you gonna know?
right.
But I can literally hear Rico right now. That's so funny.
Facts. So let's talk a little bit some reflections. If you could go back and relive one moment from your time at Delta, what would that moment be?
This is gonna sound kind of funny because it's a little moment, but it bothers me so badly still. So one year, it was our second year, we beat Schoolcraft, right? Schoolcraft is always a
Yep.
powerhouse. Like they're just crazy on the court. And I'll just never forget, like, yeah, it was a happy moment and all that stuff. And I was taking offensive foul after offensive foul. I mean, they were throwing bows and I was flopping like LeBron. I was getting all those calls. I was getting to the line so much, so much. Tell me why I was shooting like Shaq. Why was I shooting like Shaq? So if I could go back, right, I would probably focus on some things that I think are a given, right, that we
mm,
think are just automatic, right, and try to hone some more skills, some more, discipline to do things the right way. Because yeah,
yeah.
I was up there looking a hot mess, but yeah, that one just that sticks with me because it was like, yes, we won, but also I kind of sucked, but we won.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's a good moment. Y'all were nice, man, and beating Schoolcraft, and people probably don't know, but they were highly ranked every year.
Every single
So
year.
they were stacked.
Rightfully so, though. They're good.
Yeah, facts. And so, especially with the JUCO world changing, normally JUCO was meant for students like us. Last chance, grades not so great. Here's it. This is what you have to do. But as the landscape of athletics changes, now what we're getting because the portal, kids jump in the portal, they go to Saginaw Valley, they're going to jump in the portal, they can't find a home, and now they end up at Delta College. And so now you have the last chance you kids, you have kids who were NCAA eligible, but made some decisions. Now they find themselves here. And so you have such a variety of individuals, kids who fresh out of high school, who like don't have an interest to play at the next level, but because they got an opportunity, they like, I'm gonna spend my next 2 years here and figure life out after. What what do you and they're when they're thinking about that decision and or you're trying to convince a student athlete about the JUCO experience, like what makes the JUCO experience unique and valuable for athletes?
You get the time, the resources, the setting to really work on yourself, to really develop yourself. And not to knock, any higher level education, but I mean, you're one of many, right? As to where at Delta, again, you get a lot more one-on-one, you fall behind a little bit, people are going to know. Right, they're gonna notice.
Mm-hmm.
You're having an off day. They're gonna notice that as well. So just, having those personal relationships and just seeing these people on the daily in a more, smaller, more comfy setting, I think is kind of what I would push for. Like, how
Mm-hmm.
far do you want to go? How badly do you want to work on yourself? Because this is the perfect setting to really develop your skills, to really develop your education, and to do it like 70% cheaper, right?
Right.
So that's what I would do. And you know what? I did the 3-in-1 program with Ferris, so I didn't even actually go to the Ferris campus, right? But you look at my degree on the wall, you're not going to know that. You're not going to
Exactly.
know that I don't even know if I paid half a price of a degree that somebody who went over to Ferris that actually did it, right?
Right.
Saved myself some money in the long run. So I think it's just a unique experience and is a great experience to have. And I'm glad that, Delta is doing what they're doing. And I just got much love for them.
Yeah. That Ferris 3+1 and the Northwood is just such a huge partnership for students, man. So that's good to hear that you were Rico did the 3+1 in Northwood. And so it's crazy that both of you guys were in different institutions on that.
Oh,
So
yeah, for sure. And then I was like, is this really? Like, do I really count as being a Ferris graduate? I'm like, hell yeah, I did. Look at the
Yeah, yeah.
certificate. You can't tell. It don't say three
Exactly.
plus one anywhere on there. But
Exactly.
yeah,
Hold that
it's
pride.
cool that they offer those programs, right? Because Northwood, especially, that's that's a finance program, so that's really awesome. Because you can get your like MBA and all kinds of stuff through there, so that's pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah, man. So we're gonna wrap up with these last two questions, and we're gonna wrap up with that Ferris idea. But we're gonna stay at Delta one moment, and you think about all of the lessons that you learned, whether it's from Coach Kelly, whether it's from your teammates. What's one lesson that you still carry with you today?
Don't assume that you know everybody's story.
Mm,
And you come across, and especially in that setting in junior college, and you got these people coming in, like nobody knows that I was in a depression, and I had dropped out of OCC coming in there, or I don't know what the next person next to me was going through, but we managed to come together and things like that. And same thing goes now, even for me at work with what I do, right? I'm not going to assume that I know what anybody's going through. And so I
mm,
think that's kind of my biggest takeaway from there is just don't assume, because everybody
yeah,
comes from different, paths of life. And for me, it's just my job, just even as a basic human being, right? Just to hear them out, to figure it out what's going on. But that all started with them again, living with five or four other girls, learning their story. So
wow.
just hear them out.
Yeah, that in itself is powerful because it's not prejudging everyone and making sure you're taking time to understand people and get to know people. And we had to do that at
Mm-hmm.
Delta College. You know what I mean? And so that's pretty cool. And I'm happy that you shared that as well.
Yeah, especially when you have multiple people come in, playing ball at a Juco level. Again, with all this portal stuff, like where did they come from? How did they get here? Take the time to figure out those stories, man. Because when you listen to people, like you take something away from that, their stories can help you grow as well. So I always tell people just, embrace that too.
Big facts. Big facts. So we're gonna wrap up with the transition question, right? Because at the end of the day, it's JUCO. And, I would tell the athletes, so I was, of course, the AD there for a short time, but I would tell them, this is business. You got here 2 years, and if you're in a 3+1, you got 3 years, and you got a little bit of time and you're out in the real world. What advice would you share with the student athletes or even just students in general that are getting ready to make that transition from Delta? Because like you said, not every place is always as helpful
Mhm.
as Delta College. What advice would you give those individuals as they get ready to make that new journey?
Everything that they are experiencing and learning now is going to play a part in their life somewhere down the line, right? Like we might think about like middle school and stuff. It's like, why do I need to know geometry? Like that's not going to help me anywhere, right? Like, but again, the relationships and the things you learn in JUCO will literally go with you to your career. I mean,
Mm,
there's so many times, and I oversee a building with 250 people plus all of my customers, right? The way everything started clicking to me, someone was translating it through sports, right?
mm,
And really, at the time when you're going through JUCO, you don't think like this is something that's going to help me 10 years down the line when I'm trying to connect with somebody, right? Or I'm trying to
right.
motivate somebody to do something. Just know that all the stuff that you're learning right now, it's not for nothing. You're
Mm,
going to use it down the line. Like there's so many things that I can relate back to the junior college experience for me that I think I'm I'm so glad that I went down that path.
yeah,
Instead of, yeah, I still might be on my couch if I wouldn't have went to Delta. You don't know.
100%, 100%. So take what you can and enjoy the experience. And I 100% agree. It may not make sense right now, but you're gonna get to a point in your life, you're gonna be like, man, like I remember that happening.
And it goes by
And
fast. It's quick.
that's
Blink of an
it.
eye.
That's
You're
it.
an
We were there
adult.
and we were gone.
Yeah. You're adulting now.
Al, my friend, it was a pleasure catching up. And thank you so much for taking time to join me tonight. And hopefully we'll catch up the next time I'm in the mitten.
For sure. Thanks for having me on, man. It was a great conversation.
I am so glad you could join us for another episode of Under the Wing. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. I hope you found some value or joy in this episode. If you did, share the love by passing this episode along to a friend. And hey, if you know someone who would make a great guest, send their name my way. Until next time, friends, keep flying high and spreading love wherever you go. See you soon.